Good morning, everyone. We're hanging out in Kangaroo Kickabout this morning, and we're gonna wait just a few minutes for people to start tuning in, and then we'll get started. Hello there, friend. What's going on? What you thinking? Okay, Johnny, I think we'll get started.
Okay. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today with our kangaroo friends. As Kelsey said, my name is Johnny and I'm here with Emily today. Hi. And she is one of the kangaroo keepers. So do you actually want to tell us who the friend was that was checking everybody out a minute ago?
Yeah, so this is Mandy. Mandy is one of our youngest females in the group. She is about 4 years old now, and you can actually see on Mandy, if you want to go ahead and talk about our special announcement, you can see how she's got kind of this really big sagging thing right here. That's her pouch, and the reason it looks so big and saggy is because there is a baby in there. So baby kangaroos are called Joeys. Mandy is mom to one of our oldest Joeys right now. Her Joey was born last December, late last December, so it's almost 6 months old. At this point, her Joey is old enough that it has got fur on it, and sometimes it'll stick its head or its feet out of the pouch, but it has not started coming out of the pouch yet. But you can sometimes peek in.
It's so
you can
stretchy.
see a foot and a tail.
Wow.
Sometimes you just can't see a head.
Oh, there's an actual
Hello.
entire foot.
Oh my gosh. So how old are they? So you said this one's about 6 months old, right?
Yes.
How old are they when they start coming out of the pouch?
So a kangaroo's development is a lot different from a lot of other species. These guys are marsupials, and that means that when the babies are born, they're still embryos. So they're the size of a jelly bean, they're really small, and they crawl into the pouch and attach to one of the teats in the pouch, and they'll stay in there and continue to develop for up to 9 months. So sometimes they'll start sticking their heads and even coming in and out of the pouch for very short periods of time when they're anywhere between 6 and 8 months old. Typically by the time they're 9 months old, they're big enough that mom doesn't let them go fully back in the pouch anymore, but she will let them stay and nurse until they're up to 14 months old.
So this guy or girl, whoever's in the pouch, is still probably got a little ways to go, right?
Yes. So she's probably still got, and I say she, we unofficially think that she is a girl. And the reason you can sort of start to tell is Joeys can begin, if they're females, to develop a pouch of their own as early as 27 days old.
That's crazy.
So crazy.
It's really hard to see anything in there, obviously, because it's a very confined space. So we have not officially been able to sex them, but we think that our 2 oldest Joeys are both females.
So, and how many Joeys are there?
We have 5 total in the group right now. The 2 that are the largest are Mandy's, and then we have another one that's just a couple days older than Mandy's. Very exciting. Mandy's Joey, like I said, has started to sometimes stick its head out, but the other one, her name is Sapphire, her Joey actually got out of the pouch for the first time yesterday.
Wow.
It lasted about 5 seconds. She came out and immediately went right back in, and that is completely normal. When Joeys first start getting out of the pouch, as you can imagine, they haven't actually stood on their own feet yet. So their muscles and their bones are not very developed. So they'll come out for very short periods of time and start exercising. And actually, we're going to switch up. We're going to leave Mandy with some snacks.
Thanks, Mandy.
And what snacks are you leaving her with?
So this is grain. This is a special type of grain for macropods, which is the family kangaroos are in. And then these are some sweet potato pieces. They love sweet potatoes.
Lucky gal.
Potato.
But if we come over here,
Oh, and this is where the rest of the mob is.
this is where the rest of the mob is eating. So we'll see.
Chow time, huh, gal?
And kangaroos are a prey species, so they are very skittish, very unsure of strangers, but as you can see, ours are pretty used to people. But if we come over here, we might be able to see our other oldest Joey. We're gonna give you that, Indigo.
And who's the mother over here?
So this is Sapphire, and this is Sapphire's baby.
Toes.
And again, we do think that this unofficially is a girl.
Look at here. feel like we're all just naming body parts.
I see an eyeball.
So she looks like she's eating right now, but she might come out in a minute. She's pretty good about coming out to say hi. Hello.
Just casually upside down. So is this the young one that I was in the video?
Yes.
Okay.
So
this is the one you guys have
is
seen
the
this
one
morning.
that we have seen this morning. This is the one that has officially started to come in and out of the pouch for very, very short periods of time. But yeah, she is growing a little bit more every day. It's been so exciting. One really cool thing we've done with our females is we've been able to train them to voluntarily allow us to check their pouches. And this causes absolutely no stress to the mom, no stress to anything. But it allows us to watch the development of the joeys and check for any health issues or anything like that. So it's been super fun to get to see her develop from almost day one to now.
Yeah.
It's been really fun.
And it's so awesome because it speaks to your relationship and your training relationship with these animals to let you openly be able to check their baby out.
Yeah, like I said, these guys are a prey species, so their instinct whenever they're scared of anything is to run from it. And you can see, like, she's not used to having this many people in here because we've been, of course, quarantining for so long. But she's totally fine with us being here. She's not stressed, but if any weird noises occur, she's going to stand up, look around, make sure everything is safe before she goes back to eating.
And isn't there something that they do with their hind feet when they do feel threatened or there's danger nearby?
So they can stomp their feet. That's actually one of the ways they communicate with their group. A group of kangaroos is called a mob. And so if a member of the mob senses danger or sees danger, she can actually, or he can stomp their feet on the ground or slap them. It makes a really, really audible, loud sound, and it alerts the rest of the group that there might be danger nearby. They also can do this when they're just upset or angry or they don't like something. Sometimes we'll put new toys in with them, and we have a couple kangaroos who'll stomp around at the new toys because they're new and they don't know what they are, and it just takes them a little bit to get used to it. They also can do something really cool called boxing, but that's not usually something they'll do as a form of defense. A lot of people, when they think of kangaroos, that's the first thing they think of, is their ability to kickbox. And what they'll do is they'll grab onto something with their arms to help offset their weight, and then they'll kick out at it with their feet. Now, when these guys move, the reason they hop is because they can't actually move their feet separately. The way that they are made, they have to move both of their back legs together at the same time. So that's also, when they kickbox, they don't just kick out with one leg, they kick out with both, and they'll balance back on their tail. They usually will do this as a form of play when they're little. It helps them develop their back leg and their tail muscles. And they'll do it as a form of dominance with each other once they get older. You see it most often in males because they will box for breeding rights of the females. Not quite as often do you see it with the females, but it can happen.
So I just saw a couple of questions, Emily, come in about Sapphire and the kicking behavior. So first of all, how old is Sapphire's Joey?
Sapphire's Joey was born just a day or two after or before Mandy, so she was also born late last December, right after Christmas.
So about 6 months?
About 6 months old.
And then, let's see, Selena asked, will they kick you as the keeper?
So that's a really good question, and is one we get quite frequently. Again, they will not kick out in defense unless they are cornered or antagonized. If they want to get away from something, their instinct is to run from it. So we're always extremely careful to never make them feel cornered, never make them feel like they can't get away from something if they want to. And they always have free choice with our training sessions, with our feedings, anything we do with them, it is their choice to participate or not to.
Ooh.
Need a little too much green at once. But like with Sapphire right now, what we're doing with her, if she decided she didn't want to be here, or she decided there were too many people and she wanted to walk away, she has the entire porch that she can go to. She can get away from us. She does not have to be here. Her choosing to be here is what tells us that she's comfortable and she's not stressed.
So I'm giving you guys a quick pan. We are in the exhibit. This is like that back area porch situation, and the exhibit is closed right now to guests, but you can still see these guys from the bridge at the bottom of the exhibit, you know, when it's not raining.
So you talked about how they get around. How fast can these guys go if they were trying to get away from a predator in the wild?
So when they're going as fast as they can, these guys can actually hop at speeds of up to 40 miles an hour. They can cover about 30 feet per jump. at that speed.
Wow.
So they are really, really good at escaping predators that way.
And I feel like, I don't know like what the recent world record is, but I remember years ago when I used to be around kangaroos a lot, they jumped just a tad further than the world record for a man's long jump.
Yeah, I think I heard a guest say one time it was something like 22 feet was the longest he had heard, but I can't confirm that for sure. A really cool thing, when the exhibit does open back up and guests are possibly able to come back in here, we have kind of a measurement up at the top of the pathway that shows you, how far 30 feet actually is. So guests can actually jump on that and see how far they can jump compared to a kangaroo. It's a really good visual because 30 feet is a lot longer than you think it might be.
They're so cute.
I can't get over the shape of their feet because honestly, Emily, like when I'm up here, I'm not really looking at the adult's feet, but seeing the Joey's foot out like this, it's so interesting.
And you can tell kangaroos actually have 4 toes. They have a little dew claw on the outside. This is easier to show you on hers than it is on Sapphires. They have this big long, this is called their defensive toe. This is sort of the main toe that they can balance on. And then they have this teeny tiny, I don't know if you can see it since she sat back down, but there's this teeny tiny toe on the inside here. This is actually called a grooming toe, and it's 2 toes that are almost fused together as one. And they'll use that like a little comb. They can comb out the fur around their face and around their neck with it. So it's really, hers is very, very tiny, of course, since she's so little.
That's so
but
cool.
you can just barely see that it's 2 toes.
Can you imagine if we had a finger that did that? We could just brush our hair.
Really convenient.
Let's see. I'm gonna scroll back some here on the feed, but since we have food around us, let me cover Bethany's question. She says, when did Joey start eating solid food?
Great question. So before Joeys start eating solid food, they will start eating dirt, and then they'll kind of it sounds weird, but it actually gives them a lot of important nutrients and minerals. If you'll see, let's see if Prudence really likes dirt right now. It's her favorite thing.
She is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Dirt. She's like, no, mommy.
But the dirt's over here.
So if you think about in the wild, when these guys start to first come out of the pouch, they live in what's called the outback region of Australia. The outback's really arid. It's almost like a desert, very, very dry. And there's a lot of soil. And so mom will be snacking on grass. The baby will start poking its head out of the pouch, leaning down, looking at the ground, and she'll start munching on any kind of like grasses or dirt or anything that's right underneath her. Once she is completely out of the pouch is when she'll start eating more solid foods, and then eventually she'll wean off of mom's milk and just be on solid foods. But it's sort of a transitional period.
Hello, friend. Would you also like a snack?
And this is Pearl. Pearl's actually one of our moms as well. Pearl has a Joey in her pouch too. You can see her pouch is sagging just a little bit, just a hair. And Pearl actually might let us do a pouch check on her so we can demonstrate kind of what that looks like for you guys.
And so how old is this Joey?
Pearl's Joey is like, what, 4 or 5 months old now?
Yeah, it's about a month behind the other 2.
Okay. So probably born in January.
I think so. We have records of when we saw them all when they were first born. We've been mostly focused on Mandy's and Sapphires since theirs are the oldest.
Yeah.
But I think Pearl's was born about a month after those 2 were. All right. Pearl, you want the good stuff?
She's like, maybe.
Let me think about it.
I'm excited to see the smaller
This is Lauren.
one.
So Lauren is one of our other kangaroo keepers, and she's going to station Pearl. So she's going to ask Pearl.
Am I in an okay spot for this, Lauren, or should I move?
You're in a
Okay.
perfect spot, I think.
If Pearl will not get distracted, she's been eating a lot of food, so she's probably not super hungry anymore. She's going to ask Pearl to station, and what we're wanting her to do is take both of her hands and place them on the top of the bowl.
There she goes.
Good
One
job.
hand, she got 1.
2
Good
hands.
job. And so once she does that, she gets to eat, and we get to come down here, find the pouch opening, and open it up.
Oh, it has no hair on it.
It has no hair yet. Pearl's, like I said, is a lot younger. So we actually have this little green light that has a covering on it. So this way, her Joey's eyes just started opening.
Pearl's got an itch.
Got an itch.
Gotta itch
So
the itch.
Her eyes just started whatever light we're using is not going to be damaging to their eyes, and that's why we use a green light. And we have that covering that kind of disperses the light, so we can still get a good look at the joey without damaging their eyes or anything like that. But yeah, that's what a younger joey will look like when it doesn't have fur. It's very pink. Before they have fur, we have in the past seen other joeys stick their heads out and they look just like little hairless chihuahuas. So they can't stick them out before they're fully furred. Mandy's and Sapphires did not. They waited until they were completely covered.
That's what I would personally choose if I was a joey, but you know.
I know earlier we were talking about some people will sometimes ask what happens if the joey falls out of the pouch. Would that happen at this point? And like, what would happen if that did happen?
Good question. So, there is a stage that the joeys reach when they are not actually. Oh, if you guys want to see another kangaroo, it looks like Lauren has another one stationed. But I'll talk about this while we're pouch checking. This is Ruby. Ruby is a very good stationer. She's basically perfect at it.
Perfect.
Oh, I say that.
And then,
Like,
no.
excuse you? What? But when joeys are firstborn, until they're up to, I think it's 3 months old, they are actually attached to the teat in the mom's pouch. Their mouth will swell around that teat, and they cannot physically release it unless they are forced to, which research has showed can actually cause brain damage.
Wow.
So between 0 to 3 months, they are completely and fully dependent on mom. Once they officially release the teat, they have a higher chance of survival if anything were to happen to mom, or if they fell out of the pouch or anything like that. But until they're, even with Sapphire, who Sapphire's joey just poked her head out.
Cute.
Even with Sapphire and the older joeys, if they were to fall out at that stage, they can, like we've seen them fall out and then get right back in. This is what Ruby's joey looks like. So you can kind of see its little feet. And you can see her head's way down there. Her eyes haven't started to open yet. She's still very young. You
That is
can
so
start to
crazy.
see her little feet. We're gonna stick it all the way in there.
Oh, that's a weird zoom if I've ever done one.
It's the weirdest. Oh, you can see its little eyeball. Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Its foot's in the way.
And I think her ears have actually opened. When they're first born, something that's really funny is their ears are kind of plastered to the top of their head.
Oh.
And as they age, their ears sort of pop off and they become fully formed.
I can, yeah.
In the video that we posted earlier today, you can see Sapphire's joey, her ears. Her ears look like little dog ears, so they're kind of like still flat on the top. She's now, if you look at her during this video, you'll see that her ears have completely stood up and they now look like normal kangaroo ears.
Yeah.
Really funny. But after 3 months, if they were to fall out of the pouch, they probably couldn't get back in on their own. So sometimes mom can help them get back in, or if we're around, we might try to help them get back in. Once they're about 8 or 9 months old, like I said, mom makes the decision when they're too big to go back in the pouch, and she's the one who stops that. If we had an emergency happen where the mom didn't want to accept the joey back or anything like that happened, from that 0 to 3 month range, because it's so dependent on mom, the likelihood that it would survive is very slim. We can try rehabilitating it, we can try to hand raise it, but from that 0 to 3 months, it's really unlikely that it would make it. From 3 months on, there are precautions that we can take where we can possibly successfully hand raise it. Once the joeys are furred, that is when they have the highest chance for success when it comes to hand rearing. So, ideally, we want mom to be able to raise them as much as possible because mom is much better at that than we are. But if anything happens, we are here to step in. We are willing to hand raise if we need to. And as long as mom is like all of the girls you've seen here today, very social. She doesn't care if we're touching the baby as long as she's getting snacks. It's a really great way for us to start socializing the joeys at a super young age while also getting to socialize with mom.
That's amazing.
So a couple more questions, Emily. Allie's wondering, how does it work going to the bathroom for the joey in the pouch?
Oh, that is a great question. I was actually hoping someone would ask that. So at this age, joeys actually, kind of like other animals, need to be toileted after they eat. So after they eat, mom will start licking the area around their cloaca, and that will stimulate them to use the bathroom. And then mom, this is kind of gross, mom will just eat whatever is in there. And you think, oh, gross, that's disgusting, but you have to understand that really at this age, all the joey is eating is the milk from mom anyway, so there's not exactly a whole lot of waste product going on. But until the joey is out of the pouch fully, it will not really start using the bathroom on its own. In fact, there's a lot of animal rehabilitators in Australia who raise joeys that their moms have been in car accidents or something's happened, and all of them will say, once a joey starts using the bathroom on its own, get it out of the house. It is time for it to be outside.
A little disagreement over the good stuff here, the treats.
Yep, and you'll see that quite a bit. There is a dominance hierarchy among the males and the females in any kangaroo mob. Reuben, of course, is our only male, so he doesn't have any competition necessarily. But with the females, really the only thing you'll see them try to fight over is where the food is and who wants the best food and the best sleeping spots. That's about it.
Is Reuben out here right now?
Reuben is out here right now. He is the big boy.
The red one,
the
the
really
super
dark red one. He is our youngest, well, aside from the joeys, he is our youngest member of the mob right now. He is only 2.5.
And he has 5 babies already.
He has 5 babies. He's a lot more shy, so he's probably not going to stick around for us to come super close to him.
Yeah.
We work really hard to socialize him, but
Bye, friend.
he was born and raised in an exhibit where there was not as much keeper interaction as we have, of course, in our walkabout setting. So he's just a little more shy, but he loves being here. He loves the ladies. He loves Matilda, the red one right there. That's his best friend.
Cute.
He and Matilda are absolutely best friends, and they hang out together all the time.
So being only 2.5, you said?
Yeah.
Will he does he still have developing and filling out to do?
Oh,
or?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Kangaroos typically grow until they're about 5 years old. And if you guys don't care, we're actually going to take a quick trip and we're going to step over on this part.
We're going this way, Kelsey.
Oh, I'm coming.
We're just going to give him
Hold on, I gotta maze around some roos.
on the porch you can.
Excuse me, friends.
And these guys are all red kangaroos, which are the largest species, correct?
Yes.
And usually the males tend to be a lot
Right.
lighter.
So when he's fully grown, he can actually weigh up to 180 pounds and be up to 6 feet tall. And he doesn't look it right now, but if you get a chance, if he comes back over, you might be able to see his hands and his feet. It's like he's a big puppy. His hands and feet are huge. The rest of him just has to grow into it. But with the females, they're actually about 4 times smaller than the males. So our largest female in here probably weighs around 55 to 60 pounds and is about 4.5 feet tall. That's pretty typical for females. They don't usually get much larger than that. It's the males that get to be really big, really buff, and that really dark red color. That is where the name red kangaroo actually comes from, is because the males are the ones that develop that super dark red coloration. The females not quite as much.
Do you like my purse?
The microphone that we didn't use.
Rude.
And so I know, and a lot of times, they have a lot of gray hair, the females do, and I've heard them be called blue flyers before. Is that something that is a typical thing?
Yep. So in Australia, Australians have a lot of different nicknames for kangaroos. The males are normally the ones that they call boomers or red flyers, and then the females are typically called blue flyers because they are that more grayish color.
I'm gonna try and awkwardly get the mic close to you so that our friends can hear.
Go for it.
But if you guys are just tuning in, we have 5 joeys in the pouch. We're up here at the top of the Kangaroo Kickabout exhibit. It is raining like crazy. Emily, I saw someone ask, do the kangaroos like rain? And I feel like this is the answer right here.
That's gonna be no. Interesting fact about these guys, they can swim. So they are not scared of water, and in the wild, they will swim to evade predators, but their fur is actually super thick. It's about 4 times thicker than our hair is. And because of that, if it gets wet, it just takes it forever to dry.
I'm gonna zoom in on fur real quick.
Fine. If they don't have to get wet, they're not going to, but you can sort of tell. You can't even hardly see her skin. And that's because she has an average of 4 hairs per follicle. We have an average of about 1 hair per follicle. So not only is their hair thicker, but it's thicker at the top, not at the bottom.
Okay.
And what that means is their fur acts like an umbrella, not from the rain, but from dust and parasites. Their fur will protect their skin from accumulating all that dust and letting parasites get down to their skin. So it's very, very helpful in the wild.
So, quick question. Someone's asking, who is our oldest kangaroo here?
Our oldest kangaroo would be Ima. That's this one right here.
Which answers the next question, which is, where's Ima?
Here's Ima. Ima is 11 years old now. She is our oldest, and she's pretty much our most popular kangaroo because her favorite spot to lay down when guests are in here is the very middle of the pathway. She is definitely our most social kangaroo. She absolutely loves people, loves being around people. She loves being around us. We socialize a lot with her while we're in here just because we don't have guests right now. But she is doing great. And she is the kangaroo that you can also see on a video at the vet hospital. She gets chiropractic care about every 2 weeks. We have a chiropractor that comes in because she has some arthritic hip and back issues just because of her age, but she does great.
So you said she's 11 years old. How long do they typically live here at the zoo?
These guys can live in the wild to be about 6 or 7, but in zoos they can live to be anywhere from 15 to 20. The oldest in a zoo actually lived to be 26.
Wow.
So in comparison to that, our group is relatively young. And you can actually see, if you want to look right over there, Prudence, or our Sapphire's Joey is sticking her head out.
I want to see if I can get you guys to zoom in here. Here we are.
Cute.
Hello, friend.
So I know another common question you said that you guys get is if there are ever twin Joeys.
Yes, and that can happen. Kangaroos can have twins, but it's rare. And it's not based on their environment, it's based on genetics. Even though they don't have twins, these guys are some of the most efficient reproducers you will ever meet. They can be in 3 different stages of reproduction at one time. They can have a joey, what's called at the foot, which means it's nursing from the pouch, but it's no longer living in the pouch.
This is my favorite fact, all of this information. So everyone pay lots of attention.
So they have one at the foot that's nursing but not living in the pouch. They can have one that's developing in the pouch, and they can also have one developing in the womb. And they can pause the development of the one in the womb until they have room for it in the pouch.
That's mind-blowing to me.
It's crazy, but what this means is, to put it kind of in context with Sapphire, right after she had her Joey, Reuben
I just noticed the one standing in the hay.
yeah, that's their they love the hay beds. They love them so much.
Sorry, I'm easily distracted,
Oh,
Emily. You know this about me.
After she had her first Joey, Reuben rebred her, which means that once Sapphire's Joey is officially out of the pouch, after about a month, we could see her have potentially another Joey.
Oh my gosh.
It's not positive, it's not for sure, but in
It's
the
possible.
wild, once they reach maturity, female kangaroos can be pregnant for most of their lives.
So I said that's like one of my favorite facts. Do you have a favorite fact about kangaroos? And then what is your favorite thing about working with these guys?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have a favorite fact that I haven't already shared.
Okay.
I love educating people about kangaroos. I love changing their perception. Probably my favorite is when people come in and ask us about, like, oh, do they kick you? Do they box you? And you get to explain to them that, yeah, that is something kangaroos can do, but it's not something that they will do to defend themselves. They're prey species, which means they really want to just stay away from anything that scares them or run away from anything that scares them, and they're really good at it. One of my favorite things about working with them is that they are a prey species, which means they are naturally very cautious. They are naturally not inclined to trust. So building that relationship with them, when you get a moment where you can check one of their pouches because they trust you enough to do that, that is just a huge, wonderful feeling inside to know that you've worked hard enough with them to build that relationship, to build that trust. That's probably my favorite thing about
Very
working with them.
rewarding. Like that's why we do the work that we do.
Yeah.
You can build that relationship, and it's just so rewarding to be able to do that with an animal that can potentially be so scared. Yay, hey.
We love that. We love this for you. So, like you were mentioning earlier, Emily, I'm just going to repeat this for our friends that are tuning in now. We have 12 kangaroos in our mob. We have 5 joeys in the pouch. And we are in Kangaroo Kickabout. We're just up here under the porch because no one likes rain. So,
Nobody. Lauren, did you have like a favorite fact about kangaroos that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
I think the breeding thing is my favorite part. I don't know if we mentioned, but kangaroo pregnancies are only about 33 days. So that's a really exciting time for us because we can have new joeys at any time.
A month long. That's crazy. I'm sure plenty of mothers out there would be on board with
a 33-day pregnancy. Yep.
As long as you're okay carrying it around for another 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. That's valid. With every pro, there's a con, right? Okay.
Something really cool. I don't know if we talked about this with the pouch, but you mentioned when I was opening one of their pouches that it's stretchy. I heard someone describe it once as like having a pillowcase on their stomach, and I think that's just such a wonderful way to describe what the pouch is. We usually describe it kind of like a pocket, and it's extra skin that they have right around their stomach area, and they've got special muscles that can let the pouch droop open so that the baby can look around or be out, or they can clench it shut, and they can hold it so tightly closed that it becomes watertight.
Right. Okay.
So we talked about
swim with the babies in the pouch.
Yes, and the babies won't even get wet.
Oh.
It's really, really cool.
To be a kangaroo.
Yeah.
Emma thought I had a treat, and then she was disappointed when I didn't. Jeannie, to answer your question, this area is not open to the public yet because it is a high contact area, but you can certainly see our kangaroos from the bridge at the base of the exhibit if they're hopping around. Some of them like to hang out down there too, so you can see them.
Normally when it's not raining, you do get a really good view from the bridge of all the kangaroos because they'll spread out, even if it's up top. They like the top of the exhibit a little bit better than the bottom because it's a higher elevation, so they can see everything better. But you can still see them really well from the bridge, just not necessarily in the rain, because when it rains, they all kind of clump up under this one space.
We are currently looking at something.
Yes.
It is unclear what.
So straight.
Honestly, they might not even know what they're looking at.
Do they
It's true.
have like good enough eyesight where like if you were down on the path, would they be able to look at you and notice that that's you?
Good question. So you can actually see from their ears and their noses are really big. They have a much better sense of hearing and smell than they do sight. They actually don't see very well at all. And scientists think that they probably see colors like blue and green better than they do others. But we've kind of seen in our group that we don't think they have very good vision. They can see pretty up close, but it's really hard for them to see far away. And that's why they rely on their ears and their nose, and they rely on that communication where if they hear something, even before they see it, you'll see them kind of stand up and look that way and point their ears that way. And that just helps them decide, is there danger out there or am I safe?
So, quick question from Amanda. Amanda's wondering what's in this building. And you can kind of get a look here, but this is their indoor barn area.
Yeah. So this is where the kangaroos spend the night every night. They also have access to an outdoor yard, but we have ropes hung up in there that we hang stuff on for them to play with. We put all of their food in there, and it just keeps any wild animals from being able to get to it, so they can get all of their food. And it's a really fun place for them. They love it in there.
Yeah, I even asked to go in there this morning because of the rain, so it's a good place. Also, can we talk about this monsoon?
It's crazy here.
I know the sound's probably crazy on this video, so thank you guys for sticking with us and tuning in. I'm gonna try and scroll back up to your questions and give them a read, but I'll squat down here next to Ima so you guys can look at her for a minute while it's so loud. Hey gal, what's up? Let's see.
Hi, Ima.
So, Emily, oh gosh, I almost fell.
Yeah.
This is bad. I'm not very balanced. Selena's wondering, can you talk about Matilda?
Yeah, so Matilda is one of our very popular kangaroos, mostly because she only
over there,
has one
somewhere.
arm. So if you'll look, she's actually the one that's kind of on the right of the other side of the
Oh, right there.
hay feeder. You'll notice that she is missing her right arm. And a lot of people want to know what happened, like did she come to us like that? We've had Matilda since she was about a year old, and almost right after we got her, she started to develop an abscess on her wrist. And we tried to use medication to heal it up for about a year, and we just found that instead of getting better, it seemed to be getting worse. She seemed to be acting very, very sick, very, very lethargic, and at that point we decided the best course of action to take was to amputate her arm to give the rest of her body a chance to heal and keep that infection from spreading. It's been about 6 years since we did that now. She does great.
Yep.
She is one of the most dominant females in the group, so nobody messes with Matilda. And she is a phenomenal, phenomenal kangaroo.
Let's see. Lots of docents tuning in this morning. Hello, everyone. We miss you. Jinx. Also, Johnny. Daphne's wondering, Emily, if you have a favorite kangaroo.
That's a hard question. There are some kangaroos that, again, because of that trust factor, are a little more rewarding to work with than others. We have a few like Matilda or like Sydney, who's the one that's kind of right next to the hay thing, a little wet over here, who are just not quite as social as some of the other females. And through this whole process of training them with pouch checks, we have seen them come out of their shell a lot more. They will allow us to train with them. They'll allow us to check their pouches. And 2 years ago, I would not have thought that was ever possible. So I love, again, building that relationship up with them. But even the ones that are social, like Ima and Ruby, it's still just as rewarding to get to work with them and love on them too. So I really don't have a favorite. I love them all for different reasons.
That's funny. So on the flip side, Caitlin, age 6, wants to know who is Ruby's favorite keeper?
Ruby's favorite keeper? Ruby's favorite keeper is whoever is the one that has snacks.
Which I take it is you.
Which right now is Lauren. Oh, not
Oh, turn down, Lauren.
It was the thunder. It wasn't you. It was the thunder.
That sounds like an excuse, Johnny. Lauren, do you have a favorite kangaroo?
I shouldn't say, but it might be Rich.
The feeling is mutual, son.
But Prudence is stealing my heart. We'll see. I mean, there's some new ones on the block.
Oh no. The dynamic is shifting. I saw a question earlier, Emily, Lauren. Does Matilda have a joey in the pouch?
Not that we have seen yet.
Okay.
So again, we do daily pouch checks with all of our females. Some days they will let us check their pouches. Some days they're not feeling it, and that's fine. But we did get a pouch check on Matilda this morning. No baby. We do track when we see breeding occur. We track the 30 to 35 day mark so we can kind of know when they are in their birthing window. And we haven't seen any joeys from Matilda yet. But
All right.
know.
You know, it's okay. Matilda can just be best friends forever with Ruben. We don't, it's fine.
It's so funny. They'll groom each other all the time. They like to be together overnight sometimes because, like I said, Ima has those arthritic hip and back issues. We typically will separate Ima from Ruben overnight, just that way no breeding or anything occurs when we're not here to watch to make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
Whenever we separate them, Matilda and Ruben go together every time. They're always together. It's so funny.
We love that. You mentioned grooming, and I saw a question from Piper. Piper's wondering, how do they clean themselves?
A lot like cats. So they will kind of use their hands and lick their hands between their faces. They'll use their hands to scratch dirt and dust off of their fur. But like I talked about before, with their fur, because it's so thick, it protects their skin from dust and dirt. And kind of like with chinchillas that take dust baths to soak up the oil in their skin, that dust and dirt does the same thing with kangaroos. So it sucks up all that oil and it keeps them relatively clean. So we really don't have to worry too much about grooming them. Sometimes occasionally, like with Ima, because she's older, she doesn't clean herself as often. So sometimes we'll brush her. But other than that, I think most of them would get pretty offended if we tried to groom them too much.
Does she like?
They prefer to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Does she like getting brushed?
Yeah, she usually doesn't mind it, because normally when we brush her, we also give her snacks.
Okay.
So it's a very positive time for Ima.
We love a good snack.
I know, in the summertime, obviously it gets very hot, like here and in Australia.
Yes.
What do they do to keep cool? They lick their arms, correct, or am I wrong?
Yes, yeah, they'll do a few different things to save off the heat. One of the ways that kangaroos conserve water, because they're from a very dry environment, is that they don't sweat if they're not moving. So as soon as they stop moving, they stop sweating, which means they need another way for their body to cool down. So they'll salivate and they'll lick their arms and their legs. And if they're really hot, sometimes they'll lick their chest and their stomachs. And then all of that hot blood in their body is pumped towards their arms or their feet where that skin is a lot thinner. And that helps that evaporation to cool their blood down and recirculate it through their body. So it's almost like their own personal air conditioning system.
That's crazy.
They'll also dig, you can see them out on the exhibit, they'll dig these tiny little, we call them hip holes. And they're just little places where they can put their hips in the ground when they lay on their sides.
These, what look like mud puddles now?
Puddles right now. But what they're actually doing is they're digging to where the dirt is going to be a little cooler. It's not the stuff that's right on top where the sun's been hitting it. It's the stuff right underneath. So that will cool them down as well. And then the majority of the day when it's hot outside, they will sleep. That's their #1 way to not force their body to use a lot of energy in cooling themselves down, is just to nap it out.
That was one thing I was gonna ask you to talk about, is that these guys are not diurnal or nocturnal, but crepuscular.
Correct. Crepuscular. It's a really big word that I learned in college, and when I learned it, I thought, well, I don't know why this is important. I will never use this word, and now I use it every single day. But crepuscular means that they are active right around dawn and dusk, go out like deer, and then they like to sleep in the middle of the day and in the middle of the night. It can change a little bit seasonally, so in the winter, when it's really cold out, they'll stay awake longer throughout the day so that they can eat to keep them warm. And in the summer, when it gets really hot, they'll sleep a lot more during the day because it's so hot outside.
I wish I could do that. I hate the heat.
True that.
Sleep through the day.
I feel like we're so picky, Johnny. We're both like, we hate the rain, we hate the heat.
Yes.
Oh my
I picked
goodness.
snow over this.
All right. Let's see. Debbie wants to know, do you ever hear kangaroos vocalize?
That is a great question. So kangaroos actually have very, very underdeveloped vocal cords. So they can't actually make a lot of sound. They can make like a hissing and a growling sound. And then they make a sound that is called a cluck, but it sounds kind of like a chuff, like a tiger chuffing. That's sort of what it sounds like. Other than that, they really don't make any sounds, and one of the reasons they use their feet stomping on the ground to communicate is because they can't make a lot of vocalization. So good question.
Yeah, Debbie says, in Australia, I heard a male growl, which I imagine would be freaky.
They sound like large dogs. I used to work around red kangaroos, and they had one gray kangaroo in the mob, and she would growl at the other kangaroos because she was the oldest one. So if they were all eating and she wanted the food, she would just growl, and it scared me the first time I heard it because it's so unexpected.
It's really funny, and also sometimes it's funny because they think they're really intimidating, even if they're not. So we have one kangaroo who, in the late summer, she loves to sleep out on the exhibit like all the time. Even after they are supposed to go inside to eat dinner and go in for the night, she doesn't like to do that. She would rather just stay out here and sleep. And so in the late summer, we start getting her up a little earlier in the afternoon so she can eat and get awake enough to go inside when it's time to close. And she is no longer, but used to be one of our not very social kangaroos. So she didn't really like to be around guests or anything like that. But you'd go over and you'd be touching her on her back and kind of trying to encourage her to get up, and all she would do is growl at you. She would just sit there and be like, no, I'm not getting up. You can't make me.
Emma, any thoughts?
One ear, no thoughts.
Cool. So a couple more questions, Emily.
Yeah.
Haley wants to know, will the Joeys stay with this mob or will they go somewhere else?
That's a good question. So certain members of the mob, and I won't name them all off because it can get really confusing, but certain members of the mob are with the kangaroo breeding program through the Association for Zoos and Aquariums. That means based on their genetic profiles, they wanted specifically to breed Reuben with certain females in our group because those babies that they have will have good genetics. Now, Reuben is not related to any of the females in our group, so he is able to safely breed with all of them without causing any genetic problems. But there's about 5 of them in the group that he just has like the best genetics with. So those babies will either stay with us if they're females, or if they're males, once they reach maturity, they'll be sent to other parks and zoos because we don't want them to breed with anyone they might be related to in the group. Or if they are males or females, they might be sent to other zoos and parks based on the breeding program recommendations. With the other females, it just depends on if we want to keep them to grow our mob, or if there are other parks and zoos through AZA that are wanting to start different kickabouts or kangaroo exhibits. Sometimes, depending on that dynamic, we might give them to different zoos and stuff like that. But currently, that's the plan. If they're females, keep them. If they're males, once they reach maturity, send them to other parks and zoos.
So if any of them were males and they reached maturity, would you need to separate them from Reuben? Would they have issues being mature males?
Typically, males don't reach breeding age until they're about 1.5 years old. At that point, they're still going to be pretty small. You have to see that Reuben's 2.5, and he's still not as big as he will one day be. Because of that, most likely will not be big enough to be a threat to Reuben at all. Reuben will just kind of ignore them and see them as kids.
Okay.
And
Not until
by
they're
the
like
time-
5 years old.
Exactly.
Okay.
So by the time they start reaching that breeding age and we move them out, they will still be young enough that they won't be a threat to Reuben.
Okay.
Last time we did breeding, which was about, I think, 5 or 6 years ago now. It's been a long time.
2015, I think.
Yeah. We had multiple males in the group, and they did fine together, but every morning they would basically box with each other to establish that dominance hierarchy, because the most dominant male is the only one that gets to breed with the group.
Okay.
So once they establish that dominance hierarchy, they really don't have any problems for the rest of the day. They can kind of just go about their business.
So you gotta like start off the day on the right foot, I guess, maybe? I don't know. Let's see. Question from Caitlin, age 6. She wants to know what their fur feels like.
It feels a lot like, I've heard it described like rabbit fur or chinchilla fur.
Let's try and get you a
almost
close-up,
as-
Caitlin.
Yeah, it's almost as thick as like a sheep wool, but it's not as curly. So I would describe it kind of like chinchilla or rabbit fur.
Yeah, and it's like really soft too. Let's see. Angela asks, is Reuben the only male? Yes, right now. Diane wants to know, and I think I saw this question from Sue earlier as well. What enrichment did the kangaroos like to have?
Oh my goodness. So many different things. So with our enrichment, we really want to stimulate different behaviors that they would exhibit out in the wild. We want to give them objects or foods or different things like that that helps them to exhibit those behaviors. We give them, one of the things they do in the wild a lot is foraging. They will spend the majority of their day up and about, traveling to different areas in their home range to eat. So out here, because they have the grass, the exhibit's so large, we give them other types of food. We don't necessarily worry about enriching that behavior out here, because they can kind of do that all day. But at night, sometimes we'll turn their food bowls upside down, and so they have to kind of work to get to their food. We have a lot of puzzle feeders that we'll put their food into, that it just takes them more time to eat that. So that kind of helps them have to work for it a little bit more. It keeps them occupied longer. It lets them forage for a longer period of time. Boxing is another big one. We'll hang up stuffed animals, punching bags, even milk jugs. Well, actually, one of our kangaroos really loves the sound that milk jugs make if you like put a lot of them together and then use those.
Yes.
She's a huge fan. So that's really fun. And then different food items, depending on the day. They really love certain types of fruit, like mango. They love mango. They love grapes. They don't get those very often because they are very sugary. So we have to make sure that, just like us, we don't want to eat too much sugar or anything like that. Gosh, what else do we give? We give them lots of different things. It just kind of depends on the day. We try to make sure they don't get the same kind of enrichment more than once a week. That way everything's different. So it just helps stimulate the brains.
Yeah.
You're just getting turned down left and right today, Lauren.
It's just so rainy.
No love for Lauren's snacks today.
It must smell weird.
All right. Let's see. Yes, Shannon, Matilda is the kangaroo with one arm. You got that right.
You can still see Mandy's. She's getting a little
Just the
sleepy,
foot.
but you can see her Joey's foot is still sticking out.
Oh my gosh. Can you guys see that foot right there? I feel like if I zoom further, it's gonna get all weird.
So cute.
Amy, Reuben, this is the first time he's bred with our females, so he has not bred with his own offspring because this is the first time he's having offspring. Okay, let's see what else is in here. Once the joeys leave the pouch, does the mother still interact with them, or are they independent? That question's from Megan.
Good question. So once they are out of the pouch, they will stay and nurse from mom until they're up to 14 months old. At that time, they typically become independent and sort of go off and do their own thing. We've seen two different occurrences with our group. Most of our kangaroos, once they are independent of mom, they don't really care to interact with mom very much. They kind of just go off and do their own thing. But we do have one mom who actually imprinted on her joey, and they still snuggle together, hang out together. her Joey still acts like a Joey, even though she's 4 years old now. But so that can happen. It's pretty rare. Out of all the kangaroos we've had in our group, there's only 2 of them that have ever really done that. Other than that, typically once they're independent of mom, they're on their own. They go off and do their own thing.
I think we'll wrap up in like 3 questions. How about that? Shannon wants, we'll just hang out here all day.
Yeah.
Shannon wants to know, do they have distinct features that you can use to help tell them apart?
They do, yeah, and it's really hard to see at first. When I first started working here a few years ago, I walked in and I was like, well, this is impossible. I will never be able to tell them apart. And it does take a while, but once you work with them for a while, I think it's like having, if you have 3 different golden retrievers as pets, to everyone else, they're going to look exactly the same. But you live with them, you work with them all the time, so to you, they're completely different. It's the same thing with the kangaroos. You can see some of our kangaroos have distinctive features, like Ruby here. She has 2 white fingernails. She's the only one that has those. And all kangaroos, even though it's hard to tell, have a different nose pattern. So right around their muzzle, they have these little white and black areas and then these little black dots. That is going to be different on every single kangaroo, and it's actually how researchers can tell them apart from each other in the wild. So all of our kangaroos have different muzzle patterns, but that's not something that's very easy to see unless you're really up close to them. So we use size, we'll use personality, we will use those markers like the white fingernails. We have one kangaroo that has a white toe. Sometimes you can use coloration, but that's sort of not a great idea because the females can change color depending on their hormone levels. So sometimes they'll be more of a reddish color, sometimes they'll be more of a gray. It's not a drastic difference, but it is different enough that it's not always a good way to tell them apart. And we've had a lot of volunteers and interns who have come in, and we have like profile cards in all of our kangaroos. They have their picture and their distinctive markings, and they'll just study those. And usually within a few weeks, most of our interns and volunteers can tell them apart like that. So very impressive, yeah.
I still struggle doing that with our flamingo chicks.
They have bands, Johnny.
I know. I have to stare at them for like sometimes a whole minute and try to decide who it is.
Oh my goodness. Lauren finally did not get turned down with her treats today, so we can end the broadcast on a good note of Lauren being successful sharing. Karen, if you want to know what happened with Matilda, we talked about it kind of at length earlier in this broadcast, so be sure to go back and listen for that. Amy, I think we covered how long they live. You said the oldest in captivity was 26 years?
Yeah, typically they live to be about 15 to 20 years, but they can live longer than that. The oldest in the zoo lived to, I think, be about 26.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about, or should we try and take a peek at another Joey before we end today?
Over here, we're still hanging out.
We can see, let me see if I can get a bowl. And we'll see if we can.
That guy's still kind of hanging out over here.
Tail and puddle, don't worry. I also put my hand in that puddle earlier, so this is going well.
Poopy puddle?
Yeah, I put my hand in the poopy puddle. Only Lauren saw, so it's okay. Although now I've told everyone.
I would like to say, a lot of people, these guys are basically like the equivalent to white-tailed deer for us. So unfortunately, sometimes you'll find them on the side of the road. And so some Australians will actually stop and check for the babies in the pouch. Which I always like to say, do that for our old possums here, our marsupials.
Hi, friend.
An ear.
We love a good ear, and there's a tail. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun, guys. I'm really excited that we're gonna have Joey's again.
Because I can see her from here, and I was wondering if you could see her face.
I'm just gonna casually get all up in Lauren's space here.
Hello. Are you being cute?
Oh, there's a little front hand. Is that not the most precious things you guys have ever seen?
They're pretty casual.
Yeah.
We done.
Got an itch.
That's okay.
That's okay. Good job, Mandy.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, so this broadcast will be available after it ends, and I will be posting it on our YouTube too if you guys want to send that link to your friends later. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We will be back on Thursday at 11 a.m. with our porcupines. to
for World
celebrate.
Porcupine Day.
Johnny and I are real excited.
I love porcupines.
So be sure to join us for that. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day.